And also coming up right now, Peter Morici.
That's right.
Our very favorite economist. Good morning, Brian.
He's, in fact, he's on the line right now, an economist from the University of Maryland, a good guy. Peter Morici joins us. Hey, here's the first question for you, Dr. Morici. President Obama has chosen Jack Lew to be the next Secretary of the Treasury, pending, of course, Senate confirmation. What do you think about that?
Well, it's exactly what I would expect from President Obama. He doesn't have an independent thought of his own. He is a good, mechanic, a very good administrator. I admire him for that. But you can count on him to defend the welfare state. I mean, as far as Mr. Lew is concerned, we need no budget cuts. I mean, that was what the Sessions comment was about yesterday. Senator Sessions, excuse me.
Yeah.
Referencing the fact that he said some things that were very unrealistic. I don't want to call them lies, but very unrealistic in testimony in 2011, namely that soon the American people would have a budget that did not add to the deficit, which means that soon the American people would not have a budget deficit, which was crazy. I mean, if we're going to be absent of budget deficit anytime soon, I will be playing shortstop for the Nationals this year.
Well, I mean, we're hearing that Sessions says that he cannot be confirmed, or he should not be confirmed, and actually Sessions has said that the most latest development on that is that he said, I wouldn't rule out a filibuster on the matter.
Well, the Republicans have some problems in that regard. One is they can only stop so many appointees without really souring the public. I mean, Mr. Obama is entitled to who he wants, and this guy doesn't.
No, I got to stop you. I hear this all the time, and I know it's a little off topic, but I so disagree with that. I don't think he is entitled. I think he gets to nominate the man he wants, or the person that he wants, and I think it is under the Constitution the Senate's job to look at those nominees and give its advice and consent. That's the way I read the Constitution. It is their right to offer their advice and consent. I mean, they have to sign off on it, and if they don't, then he doesn't get his man or his woman.
And that's what the impeachment of Andrew Johnson was all about. I understand this is an ongoing conflict, and if you want to read it literally, you are right. I mean, I can't argue that the Constitution says that. I'm talking about what there are these areas where you have to go with what is the sense of the people. If the sense of the people is that the Republicans are being unfair to the president, they're going to find that they'll pay a very heavy price for it. But the thing about it, let's be practical. The Republicans didn't do a very good job of challenging that kind of reasoning, either in the recent budget negotiations when Mr. Obama basically said the same thing to Mr. Boehner. And they didn't respond to it rhetorically. What you've got here is a Republican Party that's performing very poorly as an opposition. Now, if you didn't have Mr. Lew, who said that, you'd have someone else who didn't say it, who would do the same thing. So what is the practical outcome of getting rid of this guy?
Peter Morici is our guest. Of course, he's a University of Maryland economist and also backup shortstop for the Nationals. He doesn't hit for power, but he can go opposite field. Peter, I just wanted to ask you really quickly about the Fed. We hear all the time that the Fed brings down interest rates because they're worried about inflation. But now we've got these two top Federal Reserve policymakers coming out and saying that they're concerned that the interest rates being so close to zero for so long as they've been, that could trigger a round of inflation. Please explain this to me.
Well, we're putting a great deal of money out there. And in the short term, it doesn't create much inflation because there's a lot of unemployment still. You don't have more money chasing fewer goods, which is the classic problem, because putting more money out there is stimulated the housing market a bit like this. But as the economy gets closer to full employment, or we just get used to being at this high level of unemployment as a new normal, then there's this notion that as the money gets spent, not more will be produced, but rather it'll just bid up the price. That's what they're afraid of. There's always been this conflict in economics. It's the old conflict between the Keynesians. And I'm not talking about the kind of Keynesian conflict we have with Republicans, but between real economists, Keynesians, and the monetarists or the Friedmanians.
Uh-huh.
That in the short term you can do a lot of things with money to goose the economy, but it has long-term deleterious consequences. Think of it as I give you a steroid. Steroids can be useful in medicine because they kind of dull the body of pain and they permit the body to heal and recover. But if the body doesn't heal and recover and you just keep giving it steroids to feel good, you get a very sick person. And what monetarists are concerned about, and this kind of reflects that kind of criticism reflects that, is that reliance on these kinds of measures for too long is very, very deleterious. I agree with that. I don't know that it has the same deleterious effects that those Fed officials are complaining about, because we get a lot of folks from the financial sector who take freshman economics, say money causes inflation, and they chant it, and they don't really understand all the intricacies of it and how that can go wrong and right and up and down and works. They're just kind of like little ideologues, like some people over at Treasury. We get into problems.
All right, and so, and in general, at the Fed, I mean, do you think that the policy that they've been pursuing, and Bernanke just continuing to print money to fund what the president is doing, is that an advantageous policy for the government to hold?
I think that it has been advantageous from the point of view is that the Fed is one hand of two hands clapping, and it doesn't control the other hand. I mean, in the short term, printing a lot of money to get us out of the financial crisis, or to get us through it, was a good thing. But the policies that we have pursued have not been very good. And you say, there you go again, Peter, the conservative economists, you don't like Mr. Obama. Well, just look outside. Mr. Reagan had a similarly deep recession. He did. I can prove it to you statistically. He had the economy growing at better than 6% right now. Mr. Obama has it growing at a little bit better than 2%. By objective data, this economy is not performing as it should. I just don't buy the notion that America is any different, any less productive, any less smart, any less capable, any less potentially a great society than it was then, except for that Mr. Obama is the president who really did lose faith in America.
Can you and I agree that this discussion that you keep hearing is that, we have to do something about raising the debt limit, and if we don't, then we're going to default on the good faith and credit of the United States? Isn't that a bunch of hooey?
Well, if we actually did default, we would be.
I mean, we're going to. Let's say
Congress impose a condition.
Exactly.
This goes back. Does Congress have this power? It's like the question you just asked me earlier. I think it does. But this is another example of how Mr. Obama gets his political appointees in trouble. He'll get somebody in trouble with this. He's saying, well, this is for money we've already spent. That is not true. Raising the debt limit, the existing debt limit is for the money you've spent. Raising the limit permits you to spend new additional money. I believe the Constitution, that's the purview of the Congress, something he has little respect for. But he says that over and over again. This is for money we've already spent. I'm not going to put up any nonsense. I'm not going to play any games.
Right.
So the American people go, oh, yeah, he shouldn't play any games, should he? Congress shouldn't play games. So now, he'll say that, and now if they ask Mr. Liu in confirmation, is this for money we've already spent or new spending? Suppose I was a senator and I asked him that. He would have to come up with some kind of fabrication. Right. This is how he got his UN ambassador in trouble, and she's not going to be Secretary of State. And it's the kind of crap that he has been putting out now over and over again that has gotten Jacob Liu in trouble. Jacob Liu knew better than to say that.
Hey, Peter Morici, we got to roll. You're always so informative. Thank you so much for joining us. Follow Peter Morici, Dr. Morici, by the way, on Twitter. It's P. Morici and the number 1. P. Morici 1 over there on Twitter. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining.